Welcome back, traders and investors. We have a guest today, Alan Brochstein, the author of the 420 Investor and Investor Letter. Alan, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. Did some due diligence out in Vancouver last week, so that was took one for the team.
Okay, and what were you doing due diligence on?
They actually there was a conference in Canada, and we've talked about a lot in the last few sessions about how Canada's a real big opportunity. So I went up there. I was actually a speaker, but I was really there to learn more and found out a lot. Maybe we can touch on some of that later. But
Okay, all right.
exciting times up north.
All right, that's good. We'll see what we can get into the Canadian stock. But first, let's talk about GW Pharma. I had Rod David on Friday, and he gave us the old bearish short term, bullish long term. And boy, from a technical pattern here, it had that huge run up over the $75. I mean, we talked about Morgan Stanley just getting this thing going north. And now it's pausing here. And just your take on it, kind of had just holding on to support here at the $67 level. What's your take on GW Pharma?
Yeah, so Rod's coming at it from the technical side, and I try to cover that a little bit, but I know he's been a little bit negative. I'm kind of in that camp short term as well. We talked about it a couple weeks ago when I was on that. Jim Cramer basically jumped on to the stock and sent it flying after that Morgan Stanley initiation report, and there wasn't a lot of meat to that report, quite frankly. It was, basically just it wasn't news. It was just the fact that they were covering it now and had a target. There's some other high targets out there also. I think last week, they had earnings number one, and there's not that much earnings per se, but they had an update really, and I think everything's on track. That's the good thing. There was something that came out. They addressed it. Two things that came out, and they addressed both of them on the call. One, they've filed a shelf, and that always gets people nervous because they think, oh God, they're going to sell more stock. But that they said very explicitly that's not the case. And then second of all, there was a company last week. I'll give you guys a symbol. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. INSYS, I think is the way you say it. INSY.
Yeah,
Have y'all ever talked about that one?
we have.
Okay, so that company got just toasted on Friday, unrelated. But that company has a synthetic THC, I believe. I don't cover it. I don't. They're not going to benefit from marijuana legalization, or it's just kind of a sideshow. But they came out last week and said that they are working on synthetic CBD, and that's the cannabinoid that is used by GW Pharma in their Epidiolex drug, which is really, if you look at that Morgan Stanley report or read any other reports, most of the analysts, that's really the big tuna there. That's for childhood epilepsy, real rare diseases. And so GW covered this on the call. So I thought it was interesting. They have they're on track to get orphan status for Epidiolex. So it's not very likely that this INSYS, if they had synthetic CBD, would be able to get it approved for the indications where GW's studying it right now.
Okay, so from this GW Pharma chart here, from Rod's looking at it from a technical basis here. What's your feel on it? Had the big run up. Who knows? Maybe more.
So yeah, it failed. You have to look at it. It definitely failed. That old high, if you recall, I know you guys know this. It was when Bank of America Merrill Lynch initiated it, and you had that gap up, and it spent 3 days up at the top near 87 or something like that. And the failure I measure from about 81, and so I think the stock needs to get through there to get back on track. But it fell well short of that this time, and so now we're going to backtrack. The question is how much. As I told you guys in the past, it never pulls back to where I say it is. It's always half a dollar higher. So that's what happens with kind of higher quality stories, I guess. But I'm kind of looking. I've been telling the 420 investor subscribers to look for maybe 58, 59.
Really?
And
Really?
that ties out with some Fibonacci retracements off the move off the
Wow.
recent low of 41.85.
I don't know. It
Alan,
just seems like a lot of people stuck short of it. But go ahead, Dennis.
I was itching there too a couple weeks ago when I had the initial spike after the Morgan Stanley upgrade, and then obviously had the follow through the next couple of days. And I was looking at that $60 level, and I had my bids. I was ready to rock. I wanted to buy it, and it pulled back to 61.60. Couldn't quite get me. And then the next day, it got back to 61.48 and put in that double bottom. And I should have known. I should have stepped up and bought it that day, and I could have already been in and out of this thing for probably 10 points, and I didn't get it. So I'm kicking myself. So you think I might have another shot down here in that 60 area if it's to pull
I think
back?
so. We'll see. I mean, these stocks are volatile. All right. Well, so IBB is the biotech ETF, and that was rocketing, and it's really rolled over. And you can pull that chart up and see that. And so GW is a biotech stock, and those, just in general, I don't know if you guys have been talking about this, but speculative stocks have been underperforming smaller stocks, speculative stocks. However you look at the Nasdaq is down a lot since over the last couple of months, while the S&P 500 is flat or slightly up. I mean, I know you guys are watching that. So anything that's kind of speculative right now seems to be under a little bit of pressure. So I'd be just a little bit nervous right now, given year-to-date gains of something like 65% or something there. And then on top of that, I mean, the stock was sitting at $9 forever a year ago. So huge gains there. But it's a great story. We started something called community ratings, or I'm calling it the GPA, the group pot stock analysis. And
Okay.
I just introduced that this weekend, and I surveyed the 420 investor members. And just to let you know, GW Pharma was in third place out of 32 stocks with a 3.06 GPA, and that I guess the scaling would be slightly. 3.0 means like. So basically, the 317 people that responded, on average, liked the stock. 4 would be love. 2 would be more neutral. We have, the scale works like that. But that was one of the more popular ones.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, they like it because maybe they bought it during that swoon down here.
Oh, yeah. You look at this, and it's pretty clear. Well, it's not just performance that's driving it. Definitely not. And so in the future, I'm hoping to get a more detailed type of survey, which is to rate people's views on valuation, management quality, growth potential, things like this. But this first go round, I just did a simple uh, assessing the future. What do you think of it as an investment, basically? So I think people like GW Pharma for a lot of reasons, not only the opportunity and the fact that it's, it really is a cannabis stock. It's, the real plant and the science side. A lot of our community is really into the medical side and not so much the recreational side. Uh, so this really appeals to them because there's no other company like GW Pharma right now. Uh, and they seem to be on track. They have multiple shots on goal. We've talked about a lot of the positives, and I think people appreciate that.
Okay, so
You've talked.
go
I
ahead,
was going to
guys.
say you've talked about GW Pharma as best in breed. If you didn't own, or if GW Pharma wasn't your pick, which one, who would you say is like second in breed, like second best in this whole space?
It's really that's a tough question. These days I feel like if I say I like it, it's going to go down. So we're in the middle of a massive correction here, and the morale is pretty low, depending on when you got in. But
On this.
I've shared the Benzinga index with you guys, and it started 2013 at 100. It dropped to 7, or was doubled in early 2013, then dropped to 70 by August. Ended 2013 at 159, peaked in March at 1,010, and right now it's at about 409, I think 407. So about a 60% correction in the since mid to late March. Thank you, SEC, but it's more than the SEC, obviously. But to answer your question, I would throw out MSIG. I think we've talked about that one before. The symbol's MCIG, kind of a high market cap, but they seem to be doing everything right to get out of penny land anyway. And they have some revenues. They don't have any debt. Uh, this is a vape pen company, but that would be one that seems to be on the right track. The number one ranking in our survey, and this isn't that surprising. This was at the end of the year of 2013. I just said, "What's your favorite stock?" And this one was the one hands down that won, and that's TerraTech, symbol TRTC. And that one's been under a lot of pressure recently. I don't know if we've talked about that one before.
I don't
Hey, I don't
know.
know.
I don't think we have. I mean, not a pretty looking chart since coming up over a buck 30 here, but once you get defined risk reward ratios. Let's talk just a little bit about the stock that had the big halt, Advanced Cannabis Solutions, and now just hanging out here. A lot of consolidation. I guess if you bought it on that
Yep.
reopening, you're doing okay. But boy, need this thing to break out over 20, huh?
Yeah, and that one, what did that get ranked? I was kind of surprised. The My ranking on that one's a lot higher than our community. It's it got a 2.2, 15th place, right in the middle. And I think this one's going to be exciting. I think the story's intact, first of all. And this company started off, the initial focus is to own the land and lease it out on a triple net lease. They've only announced one deal. I think the halt slowed them down, quite frankly, or suspension, we should call it. But then they also announced an acquisition, and this is consistent with the original plans they conveyed, which is to provide uh, products and services to the grow facilities. And so they announced this first acquisition, and it's not super big yet, but I think they'll expand in that area. And then the third part of their business, and it's not fully built out yet, but they're providing consulting business, and they have publicly announced a consulting arrangement, six figures in Canada. So it's still very early, but I think that this company is on the right track. Now, here's the thing. So this one's been trading in the grays, and my sources tell me that. Well, I don't know if you guys know about this. I unfortunately am learning more than I ever wanted to, but it's very rare for grays to go to pink. Look for this to happen on this one, and I think that's going to be a huge catalyst for the market because we've
Explain
had
that,
now
Alan.
six
Explain the
halts.
difference there between the grays and the pinks.
So this, if you want to trade this stock right now, it's a nightmare. You well, some okay. I can speak more to Grow Life because I know that some of the brokers aren't even letting people buy the stock. But in general, on the grays, they don't get quotation anymore. You don't see any bids and offers on level two. So you
Ugh.
have to kind of look at the last trade and just put in an order. End up with big bid offers. So they're not trading stocks anymore. They're investing stocks. And hey, people don't invest in penny stocks so much. So it's been a real tough time. So the volume's really dried up. But to the process, I've been learning about this, and the process to get quotation again is really pretty simple. You just have to get a market maker to apply to apply. They don't even, it doesn't even have to go through. But if a market maker applies, then you can get the pink sheets will let you trade with quotation again. And so I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen for CANN. We'll see how long this takes, but they had indicated initially that this process to get a 211 would take about 30 days, and it's been about 30 days since they were halted.
Yeah,
So,
and having trouble recovering here. You're at 11 cents. A lot of times,
wait, I'm sorry. Which one are we talking about? I thought we were talking about advanced
PHOT.
cannabis.
Yeah, no, I will. No, I'm moving. I'm sorry, I'm moving
Joel
on.
Joel moves quick. You gotta.
Oh, okay. I'm not looking at your screen. What are we talking about now?
Grow Life.
Oh, so Grow Life, that one's a little tougher. I think on Advanced Cannabis Solutions, the SEC was very clear that there was a third party. On Grow Life, the company said that there was a third party, but there's been lawsuits there. I don't think these lawsuits will amount to much. It's more an option that these lawyers have in case news does come out. But so far, there's been no news. Unfortunately for Grow Life, the SEC language wasn't as clear, and so it's basically the company's word against nothing, and so people aren't necessarily believing the company, and so to convince a market maker there might be a little bit harder. So I've been looking into that. I believe that they're in the process of trying to get a market maker, but I don't know how long that's going to take.
So if you
So
got
right now, if you're in this thing, you've just got to basically call your broker, and they just got to work the order for you as much as they can behind the scenes to try to
You,
find you a buyer.
No, 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 no. You don't have to
How's that work?
call. I
Yeah.
think you can do it online still, but you're just doing it without, being able to see bids and offers. But
Right.
here's the thing: as bad as that is, Grow Life remains one of the more active names, and this is really a sad statement because I track this every day. We had literally 8, 9 stocks a day getting $5 million or more of volume. That would always be GW Pharma, but then some other stocks as well. Now, GW Pharma is the only one getting $5 million a day of trading volume. and there's maybe 3 or 4 at a million. It's really dried up, and so I know people are down right now. I think I'm very excited about the industry, and I think a lot of these companies, I shouldn't say a lot, several of these companies really will succeed over time. But unfortunately, the market ran up way too much early in the year. A 7x on that index. We talked those numbers, 159 to 1010. 70 in August.
Unsustainable.
And so we're getting a pullback, and I get the question all the time: are we in a bear market or is this a correction? And what the heck's the difference? When it drops 60%, that sure feels like a bear market. But these are semantics perhaps. But I look at this. I'm trying to think kind of long term here, and people want to compare it to the .com, and the difference is, I mean, so at this conference, I asked people how many people even heard, this is in Canada to be fair, but how many people even heard of 420 Investor? Maybe in a room of 150, 200 people, about 10 people raised their hands. In Atlanta, where I presented a month ago to institutional investors, I asked how many of you are invested in marijuana stocks or even looking at them, and everybody they were very interested, but they weren't involved. So I can remember back in 2000, you couldn't jump into a cab without the guy telling you about his stocks. So we're in a totally different cycle. The fundamentals here, I think, are extremely strong. We have 3 to 5 years of a very dynamic industry growth ahead, but that doesn't mean the stocks go up every single day. And they got ahead of themselves, and they went up higher than I thought, and quite frankly, they've dropped probably higher than I thought, more than I thought. But that's the way it is right now.
Is STEV stevia? Is that in the in your sector or not?
I don't know. So I get a lot of people like me to cover stocks that I think are not really relevant. I try to stay focused on companies that are going to benefit from medical marijuana and legal marijuana. And so STEV, the best I can tell, it's a hemp food company. There might be some differences. There's some other tickers people talk about too, but with 150 tickers in the space, and I've added. I now have a couple of guys working with me, but still to cover that many companies, I need to draw some lines. So on STEV, until I'm convinced otherwise, I have to say no.
Okay, and just
But people do follow it, to be fair. So
okay, and you're in Canada, and just to finish up the show here, Creative Edge Nutrition. I know you've been doing a lot of homework on that company. They're
that one was
ramping up.
ranked number 4, by the way, right under GW Pharma, 3.05.
Oh, well, you had that spike down to just over 4 cents, and then it just came right back up here. Anything moving? Any news out of Canada on this stock?
So since we last spoke, I don't know if this is news. It's just official that the company has requested from Health Canada that they get the inspection. This is kind of the last step before they can start selling. They have to grow and then sell. And then the other thing is, and we've been talking about this, they have really beefed up their governance, let's call it. They have added now 3 independent directors, including a new chairman of the board. So the company's been very adamant about uplisting. And it was kind of funny. CEO Bill Shaban was in New York, and he took a picture of himself at inside the building at the NASDAQ building. I mean, he's just trying to paint a picture there, but the reality is they're not going to the NASDAQ anytime soon. But hopefully they're on track to uplist to the OTC. I'm not a big fan of pink sheet companies, especially ones that have been around for a long time. It's one thing to do a reverse merger into a pink sheet, but I think this is a middle class America stock. I understand the shareholder base here very well. They're betting on a dream come true, and so far the company seems to be delivering. A lot of people remain skeptical, that's for sure. I'm skeptical, but about the claims, but I think the project's on track. And it's very real that they're adding these independent directors that are really, I think, beefing up their chances of looking like a real company down the road.
Okay, we've had it. Oh, you got one more for him, Dennis?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I do see that facility, and it looks like it's almost done to me now. I just drive by it and I take a look there in Lakeshore, Ontario, and the double fence around it. The building looks almost complete, so it looks like there's a lot of action going on at that facility.
They just bought some adjacent property as well to do some other things with, and there's a little bit of a controversy there. I think the zoning board's trying to strong arm them into paying higher taxes. But the bears think that the zoning board's going to keep this project from happening, which I just don't think is the case.
Okay. All right. Alan Brochstein, the editor of the 420 Investor Letter, giving us his latest take on stocks in the marijuana sector. Alan, thanks for giving us your input, and we'll have you on again soon.
Okay, y'all have a nice week. Take care, guys.